What's going on, everybody? This is James Grandmaster Faqs Boyce, and this is the Faqs Project. Today, special guest, all the way from Sacramento, Trayce Sands, Impound Comics, great creator, great comic book series. Thank you for being here, bro.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to take away off of everything that you've done, pretty much as far as like last year is concerned, because Impound 1 came out with a monstrous debut.
Yeah.
As I might say. And the thing is, the work going into it was pretty much the process of how this thing just basically took off like a rocket.
Right.
If you could explain the process of basically the storyline as far as the origin is concerned of Impound himself, growing up as a single father to a young little girl who's an MMA fighter, and then all of a sudden his life changes.
Yeah.
So tell me about it.
So I mean, yeah, like you said, he's a struggling MMA fighter. The reason why I chose that is Sacramento, we have a really big MMA culture, a culture that's not really highlighted, and it's kind of weird because we've had numerous world champions. You know, from Uriah Faber, who's probably like our most famous.
Yeah.
Cody No Love. You know, we have like big name MMA fighters, and it's like they walk around like just normal people, and they shouldn't, you know what I mean? Like it should be more shining on that. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to make him an MMA fighter. Also, and I just thought that was different. You know, a lot of characters have different origins. I just thought that was a different one.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of highlighting, you know, African-American fatherhood, highlighting just heroism in general in different ways and actually being a superhero. This guy, you know, is doing everything he can to the best of his ability, you know, and for one reason and one reason only, and that's to, you know, keep his daughter smiling. Like it has a heart-cringing turn, you know, and I mean, that's pretty much is what's going to make him who he has to become, in order to not just be a hero or to get revenge necessarily, to be what the city needs on evil that has a hold over the city, you know.
Right. Now, pretty much like his character development, you see a lot of comic book characters where they're pretty much starting out as nothing. Maybe like someone who was bullied a lot, or necessarily somebody that you wouldn't typically put themselves in a scenario to where they're the alpha in the situation. In this case, when you have Impound is already a fighter. You know, he's already like had this background of MMA in him.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, when he takes on his abilities and becomes who he is, you know, it's not too night and day from his current life of exactly like who he is. It's just pretty much the background story of why he's doing it is what's putting it together.
Yeah, and for that reason, a lot of that, you know, for sure is usually true with heroes. I think with a character like him, though, it fuels maybe the wrong killer instinct for someone who already is that dominant physically or has the ability to beat people down already. When they get fueled, it's almost dangerous. Versus, you know, a character like I guess the closest person I can compare him to that's already things like the Punisher. You know, the Punisher already had a background of military background, but, you know, when he went out after the bad guys, it was a lot, you know, almost too much. Like he's not even really a hero. He's just kind of a raging fire. And that's a lot of what Impound's going to go through. He's not going to necessarily be a hero for a while.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to have to learn how to become a hero. You know, he's just, like I said, he's just going to be a bomb that was just put with the enhanced bomb, really.
Yeah.
So that's more of his journey of figuring out, getting back to his humanity, you know, getting back to being a balanced, rational person who he was before, you know, using his powers in the right way or strength in the right way, you know. So that's more of his conflict after, besides the, you know, taking down the villain. It's like we're gonna look at him in a heroic form because he's going after evil, and we understand why he's going after evil, but it's almost like, is he just matching fire with fire? It's not really like a hero, you know. He's not saving the lady being mugged on the streets. He doesn't care about that. He has one mission, and that's destroy them at all costs, you know. So that's more his battle, you know, as becoming a superhero.
Now, can you pinpoint and let everybody know the conflict between Impound and the Holy Mafia?
Well, so the Holy Mafia pretty much, the leader Trayce Jones runs a lot in the city, more than just the world of MMA, but you know, he's the guy taking the bets. He's the guy making people take falls for money. So he controls it in that way. And Impound success sparks his interest, and you know, he gets intertwined with them in the wrong way. There's certain other things I just didn't want to reveal. It's always hard explaining your story without explaining your story.
Without spoiling. I understand.
Yeah, but you'll find out later, not even in this book, the next one, why Trayce Jones wanted him to do what he had him do.
Right.
It's even deeper than just the mafia part. So that will be revealed soon, man.
It's funny because when I saw that storyline from the first book, it reminded me of a certain storyline of Daredevil's father being a prize fighter for that short bit of time, and his demise basically fueling why Daredevil was the way that he was.
Exactly. And definitely a little bit of Daredevil in there for sure. I think a lot of that, I think I was more inspired by Pulp Fiction. Where Bruce Willis's character was kind of like in a similar situation. I took a lot of all the things that I like and kind of brought it together in my own way, you know, but definitely some Daredevil in there as well.
One of the big things that I've tend to notice, and one thing I always talk about, is the fact that you're able to build a character and then build that story around them to the point where they have a bunch of side characters, to the point where the author that's writing the story has the ability to not even know who's going to be the favorite or be chosen as such. Saraf, am I saying that correctly?
That's how I say it, yeah. But I think more people will say Seraph.
That actually sounds better. Damn.
Yeah, I don't like Seraph. I like Saraf. And then, but the problem is so that name, I guess it has a bunch of different stories in different cultures, but in Christianity, Seraph was a angel. And so the reason why I gave him that name is because of Trayce Jones, is this Jesus figure. So it made sense that his general would be named after some other biblical type of thing, you know. So but yeah, like you were saying, he came out of nowhere for me.
Yeah, so Saraf has basically turned on this little small following of his own, to the point where, okay, Impound is the protagonist in the story, but the antagonist, because is the favorite necessarily because of how he looks. He does look dope as hell. You started to put images of Saraf on screen, whether it's like IG or just basic social media and everything like that. People were drawn how he looked. Like he looks dope, like kind of like Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe and everything like that. So it kind of propelled you to build his own series, almost like his backstory as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. He didn't even have a name when I first posted him. He wasn't even a character. He was the look of the Holy Mafia minions. That's all he was supposed to be. So they were all supposed to look like him. It wasn't a one character I was posting. And it's just like it just had a mind of its own. Like, people just were attracted to him immediately. He looks different right now than he did on my first post, a little bit. His first post, he had a full cross on his face.
Right.
And then someone commented, he looks like the Redeemer. I didn't know who that was, and I Googled the Redeemer, and he's like the anti-Spawn. He's in the Spawn series. Yeah. And him and Saraf look exactly. It was like, this is too much. This is exactly the same character. It's like, I was like, oh my God, I never even heard of the Redeemer. And then so I felt like I had to change them a little bit. And then so I just had him do the thin line with the cross on the side. And then people started saying he looked like Snake Eyes. I'm just like, all right, whatever. This is what he looks like. This is what he looks like. I didn't have any of those characters in mind when I was doing either one.
Yeah.
But it's like I looked and seen it and I was like, I see why people are saying that. It's fine.
Right. But what took shape to the point where it was like, okay, now I guess I gotta write a Saraf story.
Yeah, and that's just what happened. Yeah, he was clearly blowing every character out of the water every time I posted him. So that's when I went to go find a name. That's when I made him a solo person. I changed what the minions looked like, something else, and then yeah, I gave him a backstory. And then I knew he was gonna be of Asian descent of some kind. I didn't know what.
Okay.
I wanted it to be right. So my illustrator who designed Saraf, I have two different illustrators, but this is the one who designed Saraf. He's Filipino.
Okay.
So I just was like, hey, make him from the Philippines. Make him from where you're from. So like what I'm doing with Impound in Sacramento, you can do it with Saraf in the Philippines, and you'll be able to make the surroundings look right. You can make you'll give it that extra realism. So that's what made me end up doing that.
That's like a dope aspect that you basically put it in illustrator's hands in order to develop the culture of Saraf from his own.
Exactly.
So it makes it kind of easier for him.
Way easier. You know, it's easier for me in Sacramento. It's nothing. I don't even think it's a big deal when I get stuff put like landmarks and terminology. But people in Sacramento are like, man, this is really like authentic. You know what I mean? Because that's like only we would understand that, but it seems so natural.
Right.
You know. But I that's how it had to be, because you ever seen Coach Carter?
Yeah.
Movie. The worst, like the way they portrayed Richmond is horrible. It's not even kind of remotely close to anything like how Richmond is. And I didn't want to be that. Still was a great movie, but Richmond was off completely. And it didn't even make sense that was Richmond, California. So I just did not want that.
Richmond looked like New York.
Yeah, it was like they had like a Puerto Rican gang. It's like that doesn't exist. People were saying son and kid, and it's like, this is not the Bay Area at all. You guys obviously don't know anything about like Mac Dre and Ghost Riding Whips and stuff. This is not it. So I just didn't want that, and that was really why I just decided to make it organic from home.
Right. So let me know, how has the reception been when you brought out Impound 1 and you basically had the backgrounds of downtown Sacramento in the comic book for everybody to see? What was the reception like within the city?
I mean, he's almost the face of it, you know, in a small scale. Still a lot of people who need to know who he is, but you know, all the local news stations and newspapers picked it up. It was a big deal to Sacramento that this is our superhero. And that I've used that as a part of a lot of the marketing. Outside of the city, he's just Impound from Sacramento, but in the city, this is our guy. And that's how I'm trying to intertwine him with the Sacramento Kings and like I said, the MMA culture, and make him seem like he really is walking amongst us almost. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So the city took to it quick. So that's just, I'm still working on just making sure everyone in the city has heard of him. And I think he's going to be the face. You know, I picture a billboard of him, you know, in Sacramento saying protecting our city, you know, so
yeah,
that is the goal of it.
Now, I gotta say, Impound was the first time that I've seen an indie comic book have local coverage on national news.
Yeah,
within the city.
Right.
How did that come about?
I reached out to so there's several stations. There's one called KCRA, and that's our biggest news platform. And I reached out to them. I sent them, you know, Sacramento Superhero, sent them all this stuff, and they responded like that day, like later that day, and did their own story on it. As soon as they did it, everyone else just seen it, and they just started reaching out. It was just kind of like a domino effect. But it was like for 2 weeks, it just kept being on all type of stations. All the stations are down to help me moving forward. They said, you know, whenever I have big releases, let them know. It's the comic culture in the West Coast even though it's here, it's not the same as the East Coast where it's like,
Right.
it's almost homegrown there. So this is, to people out in California, being a comic creator, that doesn't even register to people. Like, comics is Marvel and that's DC and that's it. Regular people don't do this. You know what I mean? So it's just a bigger deal out here.
It's dope, man, because you found like a niche market. Being how big California is,
right?
Almost like the media capital of this country, and almost the media capital of the world. You know, you wouldn't think to yourself, because of how comics are pretty much driven so heavily on the East Coast and everything like that, how easy it is to kind of like just, I guess, make your way on the West Coast by developing your own comic and be like, I put this out, and they're like, oh, we've never seen this before.
Didn't even know that was possible. Like, you know what I mean? That's how
like, I can make my own comic book, like,
right. And all the Comic-Cons are packed. Everything is like, you know, it's a big culture. They just not on the developing side, just only the fans. You know, so it's definitely a niche. You know, I don't know too many other people, especially in Northern Cal, at least, that are doing it. I don't know anyone, you know, honestly.
Yeah, the one thing I can say about Comic-Cons is that when you go there, generally Marvel and DC are not there to sell comics. They're pretty much a multimedia company. They're there to sell their TV shows. They got their movies coming out and everything like that. Last thing on the list is the comics. I mean, you go to Artist Alley, you go to Artist Alley, you're going to see the people that basically illustrate the comics. You're going to meet some of the writers there and everything, but they're like pushed in a corner somewhere.
Right.
They almost look like my boy from The Office, just like chilling there, never talking to no one. But the thing is, they have such a following.
Yeah.
You know, they got their fans and they'll find them.
Yeah.
So I always think, like, with the pandemic, that pretty much 2020, there was a lot of indie comics out there, and almost the spectrum just got that much more broad, to where it was more accessible. Why a lot more people were shut in. There was a lot of stories to be told, and pretty much everybody picked up on, and it was cool to see, because everybody was making moves.
Right.
Now, was there anybody that you saw out there and was like, I'm about to put mine out? Let me just see what exactly, like, how people are out here.
I kind of came in blind, you know what I mean? I kind of came in I didn't know anybody. I didn't know any comic creators, any illustrators, authors. I've always been a writer. I never wrote comics. I was writing like novels and movies, never published anything.
Okay.
But when I found my first illustrator, that's when it was just like, all right, let's go. And I pretty much made it up in my head, you know what I mean, on how I think it should work, what it should look like, and how to do it. And I just learned as I went. Early when I started posting things and started getting traction, I started seeing the comic community, the indie comic community, you know, like the Concretes and Godhood, and, you know, Convictor, I think that's probably the first person I remember seeing was Convictor.
Dope, by the way.
Yeah, it's all dope. And I just started looking at them, and I started, I'm not a person that's afraid to ask questions. So I just started asking everyone, what do you think of this? What was your take on doing stuff this way? And, you know, for the most part, the comic community is helpful. You know, I try to be as helpful as I can now that I figured things out. And I just move forward, you know, met a lot of good people, made friends, and, you know, just keep grinding. But yeah, I came in completely blind, not knowing exactly what to do. I do a lot of work in like music industry, work with like artists and stuff. So I manage artists. Okay. And I just kind of took Impound in that same journey. You know, I looked at it like his illustrations are the photo shoots, his books are the albums, you know, and promoted it like it was an independent artist.
So the marketing aspect, from when you put that out, you pretty much,
I knew how to promote.
You had the blueprint in your head already, how to promote and put it out. It was like, if I get it out here, I get the illustrations up, and pretty much people will see exactly what the characters are working with. The story can follow.
Exactly. So it was like social media promotion. That's like the back of my hand. So I had those tools way before this. You know, I throw festivals, I've thrown concerts, tours. I've done it all, organized it on my own. So I knew I was going to get the word out. I just didn't know how people would take to it.
Man,
Yeah.
well, damn. I guess you got your answer.
It's going pretty well.
Word up. Now, if memory serves me correct, I remember you throwing a post up, and I know you've had the opportunity to dabble with converting Impound and Seraph into Lego characters and everything like that. You talked about in one converting, possibly making a children's book out of this.
Yeah, and that's going to be the next thing after this release.
Wow. So one thing that I always like thought is that it's one thing that I thought is that it's beneficial for, I guess, the youth to get into comic books as well. You know, it's pretty much how I started. For most kids out there, like generally between, I guess, 35 and under. Most of their parts, whether it was like in reading and everything, they read a lot of comic books. Nowadays, you don't really see that much because a lot of people are more attracted to the movies first.
Right.
But I'm starting to see a resurgence and a lot of kids wanting to get into the reading aspect of it. And the fact that you want to convert the storyline of your first book and so on and so forth into a children's book to basically like kind of like get the medium of just like having kids being adapted to this world is dope.
Right. Yeah. Appreciate that. Yeah. Impound it's not for kids. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I almost feel bad when like we do a pop-up and a parent walks up with like a 6-year-old kid and it's like, oh, this looks cool. And I'm like, I don't know if you're gonna like this for your kid. You know what I mean? To be honest with you. So I had to get rid of that. And then in Sacramento, they want to do a program. They wanted to do a program with me on supplying like schools with Impound, since he was a Sacramento figure. Nice. But when they read it, they were like, oh man, I don't know if we can put this in the elementary school. Like, yeah. Oh no. So that's where I'd already designed them all as kids, but it was just for fun. Right. And then I looked at it again and I was like, why don't we just make what I call is like, if the Rugrats were superheroes. Let's like all their relationships are all pretty different, similar but different. The Holy Mafia is still technically the Holy Mafia's babies. Obviously their relationship of why their conflict is different, completely different. It's just gonna be Impound's the popular kid and they just don't like him too much just for that reason. Just fighting over toys like that. Yeah. Okay. But you know what? Hey, to kids, that's adaptive. You know what I'm saying? Like that points everything out. And the fact that you could just like take these characters who look cool as hell on screen, regardless if they're like shown as like little kids or grown adults, and then just mold that type of storyline around them, that's going to attract kids. Because the one thing I've seen time and time again at Comic-Cons is that, you know, you'll see a lot of families coming there with their kids and they want to basically like get them introduced into a lot of comics aside from Marvel and DC and bring them into those independent alleys. And you're selling your pitch to the adult. Right. The kid is there. It's like, can my kid read it? Yeah. No. Nah, I don't know. I don't think so. No. So to get back into it, certain other characters that pop up, why is there the introduction of an alien race with the introduction of Decimus? Decimus is my universe is like Thanos. Okay. There's a lot of connection. There's already connections that haven't been seen between Impound and the Holy Mafia and Thanos' planet. It just hasn't been revealed yet. Sources of powers have come from Decimus' planet. And at some point, he's going to come to Earth to kind of like retrieve everything that was Earth has taken from his planet. So I don't want to say what it is. There's in this book and Impound 2, you'll be able, if you're paying close enough attention, you'll understand what the connection is.
Okay.
They'll say it, but they're not saying it referring to each other. It's just in the conversation. So it's in these next two books on what is the connection between them. But it's not blatantly in your face. It's going to be one of those things that later up the road, when it's truly revealed, they're going to be like, that's what he meant when he said that. I get why he said that now. But yeah, there's a big connection between Decimus and Earth right now that just hasn't been revealed.
Got you. So what can fans hope to see and look forward to with Impound 2?
You're going to see how he responds to what happened to him. You're going to see him change. And there's a lot more in there that's just deeper than that. You're going to see, I don't want to say a political stand, but there's definitely an Impound 2. It takes place during the riots in 2020. We're in the middle of it, right? When it starts, you actually see him looking at that type of stuff. So it's more than just his story. We had a guy from Sacramento who was killed by the police a few years ago, named Stephon Clark.
I remember.
And we're gonna see a reference of that. You'll see how characters feel about that. Mm-hmm. So it's just deeper. It's I'm always trying to pull heartstrings and make statements for something that may still need a voice. It's almost like I almost feel like I have a responsibility to at this point. So it's just more of doing our part of making sure like a name like Stephon Clark doesn't disappear. George Floyd doesn't disappear. And I throw stuff like that in there. I always will. When I don't know if you've seen the illustration when the Trump rioters went after the Capitol. I did an illustration of Impound like saving the Capitol.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, making it deeper, more than just a book, more than just a fictional place. It's very real. There are a lot of real things happening.
So it's not. Yeah, it's not too far in between for you to basically interject real world situations into this world. It's
exactly.
Regardless if there's fiction around the whole story of Impound, if he's interjecting himself into present day United States of America, regardless if it's Sacramento or just anywhere, it's all fair game. Right.
And so hitting a lot of points, world points, real life points in a fictional world, but I think it's important. So that's why I'm doing it that way.
Dope, bro. So, hey, I appreciate you doing this. This has been dope as hell. If you can, when are we going to see Impound 2? Like when are we going to get this release date?
We're doing the pre-order on the 21st. So we're like 8 days away. Yeah.
This month?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
8 days away, we're doing the pre-order for both. It's going to be Impound 2, Decimus 1. And we're doing a coloring book. So just an Impound coloring book. All the line art, we're putting it just in one book for, fun coloring books. So I thought of the coloring book after I thought of the children's book. I was like, I guess that would be a good compliment with it.
Pretty much.
Right. So it's next week, man. We're announcing it.
Now, is that more exclusive to the website, or is this going to be like the Kickstarter?
It's going to be a Kickstarter pre-order.
Okay, got you.
Kickstarter pre-order. So this is going to be my first real big Kickstarter. I did one when I first started, but it was like there were no books out. It was so far up the road. I mostly just did a Kickstarter just because it was like you're supposed to. But this is the one that's like, I think is going to be a way bigger response, way bigger. Impound's a way bigger brand this time. So, this month.
All right. So, hey, for everybody out there, you got 8 days. Get your pre-orders in. So Impound 2 is pretty much going to be in your lap, whether you like it or not, through Kickstarter. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that everybody is pretty much taking the time to get to know the characters that you basically put forward. Because I feel as though when the first run came out, like I said, it took off like a rocket. It was everywhere. I think I think pretty much your algorithm was in blend with anybody that had comic anything flowing through anything on IG. So like it was going to be in your face whether you liked it or not.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But to promote it and put it out there as much as possible, I feel is important. I feel like the storyline of what you're about to build that's coming up, whether it's Impound interjecting himself in the socio-political climates that are happening in current day Sacramento is definitely a dope storyline for us to go through. And I look forward to seeing how this story progresses, especially with Saraf.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you being here, man. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Word. So Faqs Project, we are out.